so many people don't know this, but selling is 90% listening, 10% doing. So you've got to listen to exactly what they want.
That documentary is incredible, and I'd love to get inside that head because that's a really interesting place.
Your visuals, your outreach, I think, has been the best in the market in the quickest time. You've accelerated, your trajectory has been very strong, and that's shown in your sales results.
There's so many factors at the moment going on in today's marketplace which just make the market quite interesting. Hi, I'm Brandon, founder of Browns International, and today I'm very happy to welcome you to the Yacht Show, episode 1. This episode is going to be a bit of an intro to Browns and what we do. But first, I'm very happy to introduce today's guest, also the newest and oldest member of the team, 24 years in the industry, Mr. Spencer Brown. Let's have a little clap, a little round of applause.
Ouch, thanks for introducing me as the oldest. I'd love to be reminded of that.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, from that perspective, how would you like to introduce yourself instead of me having to do it for you?
Wow, how would I like to introduce myself? Interesting one. I, as you know, as Brandon's already said, have 24 years in the marine leisure industry. I've also had 10 years before that in the military in the marine industry. So my whole working life has been on the water, and I'm really, really proud of the fact that, you know, I have spent so much time with the sea, thinking about weather, waves, floating objects, and things underwater as well, which we might want to go into. Just delighted that I'm continuing my career onwards and upwards with Browns on the water.
Yeah, teamwork makes the dream work.
Excellent.
Well, from that point of view, I was actually going to go into, I mean, you and I both know, I mean, obviously I've been around boating since very young, thanks to yourself. But in lots of ways, we both know this career path, it's not just a job. There is no way you can sell the boats that we sell, buy the boats that we buy for the clients if you treated it as such.
No, exactly.
And so I think what I was going to go with was, what do you think was the earliest memory that kind of made you interested in boating? Because obviously you're not from originally our family is not from a boating background as such. Well, I suppose it is in a way, but it's not from a boating territory per se.
Yeah.
So how did you end up near one of the biggest manufacturers in the UK? How did that come about? And yeah, going back to it, where was that first sort of tick moment where you decided that was what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I think you hit a key point there, and that this is not a job. It's definitely an adventure. And I look at life very much like that. And I think that started realistically when my family moved the family down to Poole in Dorset, which was at the time the base for SBS, and he was in the Royal Navy working alongside SBS. Along the water from there, along the seafront, is Sunseeker in Poole, the headquarters, the manufacturer, the product. So right down to at age of 6 or 7, when my mum and dad were in the pub, and my sister and I were sat in the car outside because kids weren't allowed in the pub then. We were sat there playing whatever game we were playing in the car, drinking Coca-Cola and eating Disco's crisps. As you can see, I can quite clearly remember the memory.
Yeah, absolutely.
There were Sunseekers going past. The water was in front of me. We lived 50 metres from the water, and so my affinity with seawater in particular began then. That grew, and my first memory of ever manoeuvring a boat was a Royal Marine landing craft in the summer in the mid-70s. It was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful summer. Everyone else was on leave, as they call it then. My dad looked after the place, and he looked after all the engineering. And every day we had to take these boats out and move them so that they were ready for action. And at 7 years old, I was driving what was basically a 50-foot landing craft. I could hardly see over the window. But yeah, 2 big engines, no bow thruster, pull tide, which is up to 6 knots in places. That's my first memory of driving a boat.
I mean, that's quite a cool memory. It's not really what I mean, obviously, on the basis that what we do is sell luxury yachts,
yeah,
to be talking about a naval, what did you say, landing craft?
Yeah, yeah.
And are they the ones is that what?
With the bow that drops down,
yeah,
and you put a vehicle in.
Okay,
yeah,
fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, a little bit, I mean, again, it shows my naivety as to other boats that aren't luxury vessels, but it's quite an exciting thing to look at for sure. And again, you know, it's so strange for me. Sometimes I forget that's kind of where it comes from. In the sense of, obviously, I had the opposite. When I was 6 or 7, we moved to Menorca,
yeah.
and there we embarked on, we got a bit of a taste of the lifestyle of what med boating is, and sort of progressed that through your job at the time.
What you were trying to say is you were my fender bitch.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. Exactly. Sweet. Well, I mean, moving on to the next one, I was just going to ask you again, just so. Again, I think this is really a good way to show what we do. You've been through lots of different facets, and you've sold lots of different vessels in lots of different places.
Yep.
Is there one that kind of sticks out? Is there a top moment, a highlight that kind of is the moment, if that makes sense?
I think there's lots of those, and sometimes to pick on one might reduce the effect of the memory of the others. But I think joining you now with your company, there is something that resonates very recently in that I sold a certain customer 2 boats within a year, or just after COVID, and guided him through that purchase. He was a very green, fresh boater, but loved the idea of it. So we put a lot of effort, particularly into the second boat, which was a great spec, lots of ideas that came out of my head and he put into reality and paid for. Which is very gratefully. But the point being is that boat had a lot of things in it that I would have put in my boat. So
I was just thinking, what boat are you talking about? And now I've just realised where you were going. Yeah, go on.
And the real connection is that you have recently completed selling that boat.
Yeah.
So what a lovely little circle in that I created it. The other part of that is my wonderful wife managed it through its charter period. And then you marketed it and sold it. And I think, coming back to it, I used the word marketed and sold because until you put your gloss of what you guys do on it, between you and Olivia, it was just another 76 out there. Whereas that boat has actually got so much character, so much colour, so much life, so much fun about it that was built in and also surrounded it. It's kind of a really special thing that you've sold it. So I just want to say thank you.
No, thank you. No, I mean, what a boat as well. At the end of the day, I think sometimes people get lost in the fact that just because vessels are production vessels doesn't mean they can't have your personality imprinted in them.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, let's run through a couple of things on that boat because Solaris was a fantastic piece of kit.
Yeah.
Or is a fantastic piece of kit, and I hope the new owners really enjoy her, and I'm sure they will. They've got a really cool itinerary planned and everything for this year going forward.
They've got a special boat. They
have. But again, going through what you've just, or dissecting what you've just said a little bit, what sort of extras did you put on that boat specifically that are different to, let's say, another 76 out there that hasn't been spec'd by a customer, that maybe has been built for a boat show or something that has been showed off, if that makes sense?
Well, I think that the buyer's modus operandi has changed quite a lot today. I remember 10 years ago, buyers always pre-ordered, always pre-specified. Whereas, as you just pointed out then, a lot of people today are happy to take a boat from stock and then perhaps modify it a year later when they know a little bit more. This client didn't know anything about what the interior of the boat should look like, feel like. He did want to operate a commercial vessel. So therefore, in my head, it had to be really aesthetically pleasing as you went on board, really welcoming, warm, colourful, things that catch, luxurious feeling, and very, orange as well. Yes, in case you don't know, orange is my favourite colour and featured very heavily in that boat. The interior of that boat really did pop. My wife Jen, who was running the boat, and the client's wife worked with myself and the design team in Sunseeker to get a very unique looking 76 yacht. And I think they did. The photos, the videos, etc. If you want to search online, really do it justice. That's what Sunseeker can build. With regard to the single features, some of the things like optic grey mirrors inside the saloon. There's a lot of natural light coming into that saloon anyway, with big windows.
Yeah.
Those opti grey mirrors really kind of make the vista and the panorama and the drama of the looking out of the window even greater. They really do allow the boat to pop inside. So that's just something from the inside. From the outside, water toys, fun, water toys. Fridges everywhere. Obviously, hot tub on the flybridge. Enhanced bar. water slides, which the captain hated, but every client loved. And things like that, as well as a full suite of sea-bobs, flight boards, stand-up paddle boards, etc. Everything you can think of was on that boat. So we packed it with fun. Put it that way.
No, yeah, I mean, as I say, she was awesome, and we sold her obviously a couple of years later, but she was maintained to an absolute T. So it's a credit to the crew on board and the whole management team looking after it. Moving further, sort of afield from that boat. Another one that kind of I'd written down as something that I think is quite important to us as Browns and everything going forward is, I mean, I know the answer to this, but what do you think you bring to a team, especially, starting out in this part of your career with us? What do you think you bring to the table?
I think, obviously, without saying some of the very, very obvious things like I can sell.
Yeah.
The thing that I've bring to the table in reality is a lot of experience with customers, face to face, on the phone, in writing, a lot of the in-depth things that clients want to know and understand, a broad spectrum of boating activity interest. So it's not just about the boat. If you ask me, in reality, the boat is, wonderful as it is a floating island, and you want to do things on the island. So what can you do on your boat?
Yeah.
So, having been a boat owner myself and loved doing that, just injecting that little thing into it, as well as the plethora of experience I've had with all those themes of boating, just makes me, I feel like when someone talks to me about boating, I'm talking from the heart and the head, not just the head. I'm not just trying to sell them a boat. I'm trying to be a little bit of a consultant, a little bit of an advisor, and a friend in the boating world.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't think everyone necessarily offers that skill. Other things to mention, I've got most of my career has been with Sunseeker. I've got an amazing relationship with that team, but also different teams in different shipyards. I understand how a shipyard interacts with their project management team through their sales team to a customer to get the requirements the customer wants. Quality control. I know we're predominantly talking about used boats, but quality control when it comes to new boats, understanding that is something that I've spent a lot of time doing and perfecting. But that also comes to when you get to a used boat and you get to the point of survey, just getting those things right for the buyer, making sure the seller understands that he should have done that for the buyer. And that's what the buyer's expectation is. All those things are in reality things that I benefits I bring. Coupled with that is obviously geographics. Not many people know this, but I've sold on every continent on this world apart from Antarctica.
Yeah, I mean, we'll let you off on that one.
Well, there's not many penguins who buy boats, so there's not many penguins and millionaires.
Yeah, no, I was about to say financial means might be a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, but the point being is that to have a knowledge of boat building in the UK, selling through the predominantly Europe, but then into different areas, and then spending the last year in the Middle East, which is a completely different boating, buying culture, spending the last year there has really opened my eyes, and I'm so glad I did it, and I can bring that back round because I really want to put the international into Browns. I really want to help you grow your company into that kind of umbrella that becomes worldwide. Simple as that.
Yeah, no, that I mean, what a response. At the end of the day, it's always an interesting question because it's not. I think all of us always look at these sort of questions and we sort of think, almost interview-esque in the way that we have to respond to them. But I think at the same time, with what you've just mentioned there, it kind of gives even more of an insight as to what you've done in the past and where you've been in the past with different products. So I think it's an awesome resume, and I think at the end of the day, I'm really looking forward to pushing forward with it. It's going to be fantastic.
I worked pretty hard to get there, so
wow, just a little bit more left.
Yeah,
a little bit more left.
Yeah, definitely. The best bit's yet to come. Put it that way. And like we said earlier, it's an adventure. I treat every day as an adventure. I want to put the fun back in my job. I really do, and I know that with you guys, it's going to be this. How can I say this wholesome part of the adventure? That's the great thing.
100%. I mean, it's it brings such a different depth when you run your own company. And I think this brings us on to the next segue of what I wanted to speak about quite nicely.
Yeah.
Ultimately, our vision is for Browns to be the ultimate boutique yacht brokerage product. And so there's two parts to that, and that is the two parts that I want to move on to. And I think we should just sort of free flow as to what we're talking about here. But there's two parts to that. One part is, our clients come to us and say, hey, I've got this product. I'd like to sell it. It's 3 years old, and these are the details. And we run the product, but we sell the product from there. But we also obviously offer, as a boutique yacht brokerage, we also offer the consultancy part, which was something that you mentioned earlier on in the podcast, where we take the client to the right shipyard and we ensure they get the product they want with the right people overseeing it, booking management teams in, booking build project managers in. So making sure that we have the right people in the right places is a big part of it,
and the right relationships.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this whole industry, as you know, is very based on your relationships, both with your client, with the suppliers, etc. So it's super important. But if we start on listing. Yep. Because I think listing is it's so crucial. It's where people find your boat for sale. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And it is an art.
No, it's simple as that. 100% an art, and it's super important. And that's why we're at Browns, we're trying to invest as much as possible in our media team. George is doing an awesome job with what he's done so far already, and I'm really looking forward to what we get to over the coming weeks and months. But let's break down the listing process. So client comes to me and says, or comes to us and says, hi guys, I have the products that we sell or the vessels that we sell vary so much because we're very open to, at the end of the day, we just want to help get those boats sold. So it could be anything, but we have the same approach to all boats, regardless of size and value, is what I'm trying to say with that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, client comes to us and says, I want to list my boat with Browns, or I'm looking to list my boat. Where would you go first? Or where would you take that first? Where do you take the conversation first?
I think in reality, you've got to listen to what they want. Selling, so many people don't know this, but selling is 90% listening, 10% doing. So you've got to listen to exactly what they want, the time scale they want to sell the boat. Where obviously the money is the most important part of this, but how they want to sell the boat, what they're going to sell the boat with, what condition they're going to sell the boat in, etc. And obviously we only want to sell the best condition boats to the best quality clients. As simple as that. And that's by creating this level of quality, we magnetize other quality. So, but coming back to it, the thing is listening to what the client exactly wants from their sale. Simple as that. What result do they want?
Yeah, exactly. I think often when we get the initial inquiry or the conversation starts to crop up of, hey, I am thinking and considering changing the boat, because as we know, boats are the only way that they're similar to cars is that they age in that format and they depreciate in that format. Yeah. So I think often one of the things that we like to go to first is we obviously, the conversation normally steers into, let's have a meeting on the boat. Let's sit down. Let's establish what the boat is. Because it's like we've said before, just using Sunseeker as a reference, a Sunseeker Manhattan 73, for example, is a 2013 boat, roughly. But that 2013 boat can be a 2013 boat, or it can be a 2013 boat. Yep. So, I think, like we've just said, one of our main things is definitely visual. So we want to be on board. We want to be preferably on board with the client to run through what that vessel is and how it's been looked after.
So I like what you're saying there, because it's actually the tangibility of the product you're selling. Yeah. You know it, the spec, the quality of each bit of the spec. So whether the engine room is amazing, but it's had a couple of leaks and the interior isn't quite so good. Yeah. That sort of in-depth knowledge about it allows you to portray the right thing to the eventual buyer, but also to put the seller's head in the right place about where the value actually lies. If the spec's higher, he should expect to increase the price slightly. If the spec's lower, likewise. If the condition's higher, again, the price goes up. So all those things, again, but it's understanding and having a very honest chat with the client about his boat. Sometimes that's not easy, as it's.
I don't know what it is with boats, but they just create the conversation about the price. I mean, again, like we've said before, if you go by price quality ratio, let's say, the reality is there's so many other factors involved in it, like time, if the seller's particularly, maybe they've bought another boat already, or maybe they want to buy a house, and therefore they've got a limited time frame to sell the boat, then naturally the pricing is going to have to be more aggressive to get there.
Yeah. Again, that's listening to them, and understanding
100%.
their individual situation.
100%.
And anyone who can afford these boats, they're generally strong, normally self-made.
Yeah.
Okay, so they have an opinion about everything, and sometimes it's quite hard to break the ice and to tell them honest truths. But that's one thing I know that because you've told me a few honest truths, that's one thing I know you're not afraid of, and likewise nor am I. So it's about being confident with the customer, but also earning their respect very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think calling you the oldest member of the team was an honest truth, but we'll move past it.
I'm still here at the moment. I haven't left, but I'm getting close.
No, look, honesty is the best policy on all of these things. And I think what we were going to on the value side of things, if we sort of move through listing your boat, the value thing is, the reality is that we often get emotional responses.
Yeah.
Because clients do put so much money into their product, into their vessel.
Yeah.
And again, the problem is so much money, and I'm using air quotes, so much money can be perceived differently by every person.
Yeah.
So it is, like you say, you have to listen, because you have to understand what's going to make the operation tick over.
Yeah.
And that's what we're there for at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
So once we're on board, once we've been on the boat, once we've seen it, then what? Market research?
Market research is key. It really is. And it's so important just to get that bang on. It's not necessarily just about that model. It's about the models that relate to it by the manufacturers. So you get a good idea of what your pound buys at that level. And I think that's, you can look at historic boats that have been sold. You can look at current boats on the market. There are great tools to do that, obviously. And then making a full presentation to the customer, showing him that you care about his pounds, pennies and pence. Simple as that. That is so important.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think as well, a sort of a key note from what we do as a boutique yacht brokerage, one of the things that is really interesting is as you just said, the values of these vessels, even though you might have a Princess 85 and another client might have a Princess 85, your Princess 85 can be 3 years older, and their Princess 85 could be maintained, far worse than yours can.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's always important when we take away and we look at these values, we also are looking at other British manufacturers that would be similar.
That relate to it, yeah.
And also in the case of it, if we're selling an Italian product, the same thing. We're always comparing not only to that same model, because that just wouldn't give us enough data, really.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important to note, is that one of the things that we really always focus on is looking at the whole market and not just focusing on that one model, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think as well, it's kind of, you've got to look, although you were looking at an individual boat, you've got to look at the market as a whole, not just then the model and its related rivals, but the market as a whole. Is it going up? Is it going down? Is there a reason why leisure boating is becoming more popular at the moment? Seasonal, post-COVID, things like that have a real difference on the value of a yacht, and also, therefore, the value that someone's going to buy it at, or the value that someone's going to sell it at.
Oh no, and at this point, and again, we'll save them for shall we say, future conversations. But at this point, you can literally almost make another whole episode or conversation about the price rise since COVID.
Yeah.
Now that what's happening with the fact that these prices are all deflating, there's so many factors at the moment going on in today's marketplace, which just make the market quite interesting. But I think ultimately, when it comes back to it, the other thing that we're always looking at is the sold boat prices, the data we've got on vessels that are selling, to be able to say, hey, look, this isn't the same as yours, but it's not a million miles off, and look at where we are.
And that's and these are facts. These aren't guesstimates. These are solid facts about where the marketplace, and other people will be reading the same things and using that data as well. So it's very much real time information. Yeah,
and I think that leads on to quite nicely leads on to what we do to make sure we are the people that stand out with your product. And I think often people don't realize that it takes a little bit of wizardry to make sure that boat is seen, but is also seen to be the best it can be. Always through truth, as we've just said. But that's, again, coming back to it, is why we invest in media so much, is because we are really committed to making sure that that vessel is shown in the best light.
Well, here's something that you don't necessarily hear. You do hear it along your journey so far over the last 16, 17 months. But the point is that I left Sunseeker in January, Sunseeker in UK in January, very shortly after you'd set up. But the message I got and the opinion of what you were doing from lots of people I've spoken to has been very, very high. You don't normally get that feedback, and it's not just because it's Brandon Brown, my son, and his wonderful partner, Olivia. But the point is,
Brandon Brown doesn't do a lot of it.
I don't want to get in trouble here.
Politically correct.
Yeah. But the point being is that your visuals, your outreach, I think, has been the best in the market in the quickest time. You've accelerated. Your trajectory has been very strong, and that's shown in your sales results. That makes me, when I'm in a position like this, that makes me even more excited about coming. You've invested in so much already between the two of you in visuals and the projection of the material you have to sell. Now you're employing a third member to help you along with that. Things are just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger for Browns, and that's one of the exciting bits of this. For the customer, he's the one saying to me in retrospect, your son's doing really well. He's putting the boats. He's thinking in his head, I'd like to list my boat with them because people can see the true value of my yacht.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the brilliance of it.
I think it's one of those things I don't want to blow our own horn, but that has always been in my head. It's always been something that I always wanted throughout my career, is just to make sure that we are, because again, like I said at the very beginning, this is life. Like this is what we do.
Yeah.
And so if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. And that's kind of been the philosophy since day one. So I think, from the perspective of a client, that's kind of a client looking to list the boat. That's where we are very strong. We like to pride ourselves on that. And as well, again, being boutique, we're not trying to sell hundreds of boats. We're trying to sell a select few. And we're quite picky on what those are because we want them to be great.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I think from that perspective, that's always really nice. And I think in the future, I think that's quite a good leeway, or that's quite a good part that we've just discussed about what we do when we list a boat. Because obviously then from there, obviously once we've agreed with the client what we are doing in terms of pricing, what our aim is, what our terms are, we'll then proceed to put it out to all of the outlets. We will, inform all of our team of brokers that we work with. We'll inform, we'll let the whole world know essentially that is available. And that's listing your boat essentially. In my opinion, that's what we do to make sure that boat is the most reviewed version of that boat out there.
Yeah, I think when you think about the service that Browns offer and the word that we're looking at boutique, we're looking at professional service. I think when you go the extra mile with the visuals, it pays dividends, and you've sold boats very quickly from a set of videos, photos, etc. It pays dividends. There's so many brokers who don't take care to just display the boat right. Will leave bed covers unmade or poorly made. Will not light the boat correctly. Will not do any video. We're just, it will take the boat on a poor day. All those little things are so easily corrected. And, as an experienced manager in this business, I've seen so many ways not to do it. And I know that I look at your stuff and I think, this is great. It just enlightens the prospect so much as to the quality of the boat. No,
it's super exciting in that sense.
Yeah.
So moving from the listing side, so that is how we go about listing. We obviously from there we then find the buyer, and again we're trying to sort of split this into different episodes so that we've got some really cool stuff to bring to the audience. But the only other thing I wanted to talk about really was how we go about finding the dream boat, because aside from being brokers, at the end of the day we have had a plethora of experiences with multiple shipyards, multiple situations. And I pride myself and I pride the business on being able to go out and find that vessel. So again, I think we just walk everyone through, or walk the audience through what we do and how we go about that process.
Yeah. I mean, again, the key thing here is, I made the point earlier, but the key thing here is listening. What does the client want from his boat? What does his family want from his boat? Does he want commercial? Does he want purely private? Does he want lots of outside space? Does he want a sports boat? Does he want performance? Does he want to explore a style? All those
There
things.
are so many options.
There are so many parameters. Yeah, and it'd be very easy to waste a lot of time going to different shipyards and exploring lots of options, but then just coming around. No, it's all about what the client wants and creating the whole idea of bespoke and boutique, creating the right options for that client's requirements. Simple as that. So listening. That's key.
100%. And I think as well, the other thing that I really try and take away from decisions that I've made in the past, if you're looking for a car, if you're whatever you're looking for a house, whatever the story may be, the reality is that I think, we think sometimes we're super busy. I since I've run a business, I don't, the time frames of what you have or the time available you have is so much more limited.
Yeah.
And I think when you think of that times 1,000, which is what these guys buying these boats are doing, I think it's really important to listen and then to narrow down the potentials. And then that's essentially what we do. We narrow down the potentials. We find out the answers to the questions that you mentioned before. From there, we will essentially we'll locate the vessels that are of interest to the customer. We'll bring them their selection, and dependent on what they're after, what's available within that sector, we'll then bring those to the table. We can go and visit them if they need. We can give them a professional eye on what could be great about the vessel.
Yeah.
And equally, if that's then a new vessel that they're looking for, we can organise visits to shipyards. A lot of the time these shipyards are quite happy to travel if there are plans or drawings to the clients. So, we've got the relationships to do either of those things, really.
I think as well, it's important to underline to the clients that at the end of the day, they're all busy people. Yeah. They might not be able to do all these things that we're talking about, but with Brown's knowledge of media and visual representation, it's very easy to do for us to visit on their behalf, to do presentations, to do video links, a video viewing, that sort of thing, to create an as if they were there type scenario before they actually make the final decision. So I think that's a really important tool to use today.
I think in today's world, and again, talking about things that we could talk about forever, but as an example, vessels like Solaris, they sold from someone's sofa. Yeah. They never even actually viewed the vessel. So, it can be done in today's world from afar, from wherever you are.
Yeah.
As long as you've got a laptop screen in front of you, we can make that possible.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
and that's on every aspect of the used market or of the vessel market. Sorry, should I say not necessarily the used market, but both new and used. You can really bring that to life in someone's living room.
Yeah. I think that's a really important thing to explain to the client, is that we understand that time is your most valued asset, your
Absolutely.
most valued commodity. We as Browns want to make sure that we target exactly what you want. It might be 5 vessels, it might be 3 vessels, but the one that you want, we want to find for you. You might not have the time to do it. We can do it for you.
Absolutely. The shortlist is the way forward.
Yeah.
And the beauty is that because we also appreciate that whilst they have limited time, or the customer has limited time, there is also an element of this is not a 5-minute process.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
so vessels come up on the market, new boats become available because something might have slipped up at a shipyard. So there is no time pressure or limit on these clients. It's the opposite. In fact, we make sure that if a new one comes up or a new vessel gets put on the market that could be of interest to that client, we're the first to know and we're the first to let you know.
Yeah.
So that's what Browns does when we're finding your dream boat.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're going to wrap this up, and we designed a little a fun one, which is an interesting one to say out loud. But essentially, I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to ask myself for this first episode. But 3 people, dead or alive, lunch at Anchor, go.
Wow. Okay, great. So I'm at Anchor and I'm having lunch with, first and foremost, Winston Churchill.
Guy.
Yeah. It's just to hear the stories, to understand what he and the country went through under his leadership, understand decisions he made, some of the stories. He's a great orator, but also the most amazing motivator when you read some of his quotes. Which I, as Brandon is fully aware of for his whole life, I'm a big fan of motivational quotes.
Don't know what you're talking about.
At the end, I think he would be an extremely good lunch partner. I'm going to sit next to him.
One.
Yeah, I'm going to sit next to him. Someone completely opposite. Prince. Yeah,
wow, okay.
yeah. Because had such an amazing influence on me. I was a musician in my earlier life. I still try and be, or make an effort to be, but to hear how he did things, to understand what he did things, might throw a guitar on the middle of the lunch table as well, so we could have a little jam. That would be absolutely phenomenal. What an absolute musical genius. And then I'd love to have said Margot Robbie.
Just
So
for some eye candy.
I'll say Margot Robbie.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I was about to say, you make this table however you want to make it. Well, okay, yeah, that's some pretty cool people. What's really interesting is actually I didn't even think of sort of historical figures, but that's in like when I was thinking, what ones would I bring up? I never thought of historical figures. My mind genuinely just went to high achievers and sports. I mean, not that Winston Churchill's not a high achiever, but in the sense of more, that high achiever sort of more current. So mine would be, I'd love to have Michael Jordan.
Yeah, great.
I mean, that documentary that that documentary is incredible, and I'd love to get inside that head because that's a really interesting place. Philip Knight, creator of Nike. I think it kind of explains itself.
Amazing life story, amazing products, development, super cool, yeah.
And then I think I'd have a little like tussle up to see who. I think I know who'd win, but tussle up to see who could take the third seat and put either like a Lewis Hamilton, or someone like Tadej Pogacar.
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't think of a supermodel. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well,
I've tried to let you down, Dad.
You got the sports, so I think that's a good balance.
Yeah. I mean, if we can put the yachts together, then it's perfect.
That's it. Brilliant.
Awesome.
Brilliant. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll wrap up there. Awesome to have you on. Obviously, we'll have you on, I'm sure, many times more. And yeah, can't wait to catch up with everybody on the next one.
Yeah, it's great to be part of the team. Really looking forward to it. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.